everyone, I'm Shannon Kantner and you're watching a special CMSD TV program, Talk to the CEO, featuring District CEO Eric Gordon. He's joined us here in the studio today for some updates and important information about the district in the 2016-2017 school year. Thanks so much for being here.
Great to see you, Shannon.
You too. Well, let's just jump right into things. This is the first time we've been able to sit down and talk since voters overwhelmingly renewed the levy that funds reforms in the Cleveland plan. The passage of the levy in 2012 made the reforms possible. What will happen now that the levy has been extended for another 4 years?
Well, I think there's two things that need to happen in the next 4 years. So one is, I think the overwhelming approval was actually a raising of the bar. I think that voters are going to expect even more in outcomes for kids in the next 4 years and hold us accountable that 4 years from now we look better than we do today. So I think one is a clear raising of the bar and a challenge that I know my team and I take on very seriously. I hope, though, that the other is that we will be able to continue to expand the resources that reach all children, so art, music, media, extracurricular activities, technology investments. I think now that we've really put a lot of investment in the infrastructure of the system, the next 4 years is going to allow us to really think more holistically for our kids, and I'm really excited about that.
Well, another exciting announcement that CMSD just announced is the launch of 6 new high school models next school year, obviously part of raising the bar, I'm sure. What can you tell us about these models? What will they bring to the district? And what kind of additions will be made to the portfolio in the future that you can tell us about?
Well, I hope by now the public has seen that every year we reevaluate what options we have for kids, and we take some things out of service that no longer meet our needs and put things in that do. And so we are expanding our Bard High School Early College to the East Side communities that didn't have easy access to Bard until now. We have announced an aviation and maritime program that will take advantage of our lakefront and airport. I'm really excited about that. And a number of other school options that continue to diversify the choices, particularly at the high school level for our kids. But where I think people will see us moving next is really thinking about the K-8 infrastructure and making sure that our K-8 schools are also reinvested in, that those that are working get stood up and expanded, and those that are no longer meeting our needs, that we actually do a similar strategy of taking them out of service and putting a new program in its place.
Great. Well, we already mentioned the 6 new options of high schools next school year. School choice is a major topic of discussion at the federal level following the presidential election. What is CMSD's position on school choice?
Well, our position has always been that our students deserve high-quality schools, and that we have to hold ourselves agnostic to form. So if a student can get a high-quality school education in a parochial setting, or a charter setting, or a district setting, so be it. We need, as a community, to want our kids to have the best education for them, and we need to be able to be okay that that could be delivered in multiple spaces. I think what's going to be interesting, though, is there are a lot of choice advocates that actually exclude their public school district as a choice, and our model actually is inclusive of all of the choices that a family might select, and so it'll be interesting to see how that sorts out.
We'll definitely pay attention to that as it comes along.
Absolutely.
Now, it's that time of year. Let's switch gears here a little bit. Winter weather is here. It's cold. I don't know if we want to describe it as quite frightful outside yet, but it's definitely cold. School was canceled district-wide because of snow on December 15th, so probably a good time to talk again about the district's process for making such decisions to close schools, cancel classes. What factors do you weigh, and when is it necessary to actually cancel classes?
Well, first I think we have to remember that we do live in Cleveland, so people will call me and say it's cold, and I say, well, yes, it's December, it's January, like we do live in Cleveland. But there are factors that we really carefully weigh. We carefully weigh the temperature and the real field temperature, so a combination of the actual and the wind chill temperature. And we know that students shouldn't be outside for more than 30 minutes when you start to see temperatures -15. That sounds very harsh, but that's National Weather Service data that we use. We look at snow accumulation, and we look both at accumulation in a single instance or an accumulation over time. And really we're asking the question, can we safely move children to school on the 3 forms that they get there? Walking to school, using our yellow bus service, or using RTA. And so those are the factors that we're considering. A team of us begin at 3:30 in the morning on any possible inclement weather day. We have people driving the streets, particularly from our transportation team. We have conference calls with city employees to see how street cleaning is coming, and reach out to the Cleveland Police to see if they're reporting any concerns. We're monitoring National Weather Service data directly from the National Weather Service. We're talking with other colleagues to see what they're seeing in their communities and their parts of community. And our goal is always to have a decision by 5:30 in the morning, so that before we even begin putting buses on the street at 6 o'clock, we've already made the decision for our kids. Earlier is always better. And then I think we have to keep in mind that Cleveland is very unique in that it's very broad east to west across the lake. And so what may be happening in the Collinwood neighborhood may not be happening out by the airport, and thinking about how we manage that as a system. Our priority is safety. But we also do consider that a lot of our kids depend on breakfast and lunch at school, and so we also are very cognizant about the needs of our kids and community, and then obviously our desire to be teaching and learning. So it's a very complex process that starts at 3:30 in the morning and lands at 5:30 in the morning several days throughout the winter.
Wow, and I know we make sure to update everyone on social media, on the news channels. We do tend to get a lot of questions and comments about Snow Days on social media, so this is really the perfect transition to a new portion of this program featuring questions from the community. These were sent to us from our online forum that we created on the CMSD website. You could submit your own if you just visit clevelandmetroschools.org/CEO questions. They might be featured the next time, so let's jump right into it.
Sure.
Our first question is from a community member asking, do you have uniform vouchers for CMSD students?
So we have a great partnership with Shoes and Clothes for Kids, who provides the uniform support for our kids. So anybody who needs support should contact a CMSD staff member at their school who can make the request on their behalf, and Shoes and Clothes for Kids will help us to fulfill that request. We do have limited resources, particularly this time of year, so we also have a uniform recycling program where people can turn in uniforms their children have outgrown, and we'll launder those and have them also available in the event that we need a gently used uniform for kids who are growing throughout the year.
That tends to happen.
It does.
Right. Another person asks, as the Ohio Department of Education has moved to online testing, how is the district helping scholars prepare for the test using devices, and what kind of access do students have to those devices in school?
Well, so updating our devices, our electronic technology, is something that we need to do a lot more work on, being very candid. And to our earlier conversation, I think the levy renewal is going to give us that opportunity. Having said that, we've replaced 39,000 devices over the last 4 years, and so that's essentially a device per child. We have done some experimentation with one-to-one laptop devices, like at our Facing History New Tech, and also using tablets in our summer school programs, in Orchard School of Science, and some other K-8 spaces. And so we are testing a number of different technology platforms that are easily accessible for children, meet the standards of the state testing requirements, and that we can bring to scale quickly across the city.
Great. Moving on, we also had a couple of people wondering about school lunches. It's not new that students in Cleveland or all across the country don't necessarily have a big appetite for school lunches, but what is the district doing to ensure nutritional quality lunches for students?
Yeah, I think it's our favorite thing to do is to hate our school lunches, no matter who you are or where you went to school. We've actually done really a lot in this area. Last year, we moved to what's called semi-scratch cooking in almost all of our buildings. So prior to last year, we actually cooked most of our food in a central kitchen and then literally trucked it to schools and heated it at those school sites. We have moved to delivering fresh product directly to schools and preparing much of the food that students are served right at schools, which means they're getting a much more fresh meal. Lots of fresh fruits and vegetables in our priorities here, but also like baked potatoes and things of that nature. We do have some schools that simply cannot accommodate scratch cooking because they are not equipped with those kitchens, and so instead of using central kitchen for that, we've actually had high schools in the region be the scratch cook site and then ship closely so that we don't have food on trucks all over town all day long. We are now working to bring a new food service executive in place. We're really looking at then what are the meals that we know kids eat. You know, we are in a grab-and-go culture, not just students but adults. We like that handheld, we like that roll-up, we like that burger, we like that, and so we're really looking at what do our kids eat on their own time when they have the opportunity, and how do we use those to model meals that we know they'll like better at school as well.
That's great. I've seen some of those lunches. I think they kind of look and smell delicious, in my opinion, but I'm an adult.
They are much better, but it's still school lunch when you're a kid.
Right. Right. All right, we'll move on to a question from Pat asking, will Iowa Maple be torn down?
So Iowa Maple is currently scheduled to be replaced with a new school building in segment 9, I believe, of our construction facilities plan, which I believe we'll be planning in the 18-19 school year and takes about 18 months to plan. One of the big questions to answer in that is whether we will rebuild on the existing site, which means that we'll have to move kids into what we call a swing space for a number of years, couple of years, or whether we would identify a new location for Iowa Maple and leave the kids in place until the new building's open. And those are decisions that have not yet been made. But the board has approved a new Iowa Maple School in segment 9, which is scheduled for the 18-19 school year to begin the planning.
Great, good update. And finally, Doris would like to know if central office staff could visit schools twice a year or attend at least one school event. She hopes staff could actually see students in action and let them know how important they are.
Well, I actually insist that my senior leaders visit schools much more frequently than twice a year. In fact, this morning I had staff meetings inside of Success Tech Academy so that our people were in schools, and then I actually spent about an hour with the visual and graphic arts students who were showing me their portfolio of materials that they've designed for the year. I think it's really important that all of us are in schools, and actually I use my Twitter account to show off the good things I've seen, but also so that the public knows that I am in schools as frequently as possible, typically 2 to 3 times a week, and you can see that by the postings that are coming out. So it's very intentional. So we all can do more and need to do more. I know my Board of Education has actively asked for support in getting in schools more regularly. I think that's a great sign. And I think we need to continue to push to be as visible as possible, keeping in mind that there's 106 school sites and one of me, and so it may often feel like the team isn't as visible as we'd like just because there's a small amount of people for a large footprint in our district.
Great. Well, thank you so much for answering these questions from the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that we're getting community questions. This is great.
Good. Well, we keep them coming then. Remember,
That's right.
You can submit your own questions by visiting clevelandmetroschools.org/CEO questions. It's a very simple form to fill out. You can remain anonymous if you'd like. In the meantime, definitely follow the CEO. It's Eric Gordon, CEO, on Twitter. He'll make sure to be updating often. And thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Talk to the CEO. You can view this one and other CMSD TV programming by going to clevelandmetroschools.org/news. We'll see you next time.